Walk past almost any barbershop and you'll probably see it. A spinning pole. Red stripes, white stripes, maybe a little blue depending on where you are. Most of us never question it. It's just barber stuff, like scissors, or those chairs that somehow make you feel shorter and taller at the same time. But imagine trying to explain that pole to someone who's never seen one before. So, if you want a haircut, just look for the giant spinning candy cane outside. When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. And honestly, the real explanation is even stranger. Because those stripes aren't advertising haircuts. They're advertising something barbers used to do that you'd probably never let your barber do today. For most of history, getting a haircut wasn't a particularly specialized job. Neither was shaving. If you owned a sharp blade and had reasonably steady hands, congratulations, you were useful. Back then, towns were smaller, doctors were fewer, and people couldn't exactly schedule an appointment with a specialist 3 months from now. So barbers started picking up extra responsibilities. Need a trim? Sit down. Need a beard shaved? No problem. Need a tooth pulled? Well, this might sting a little. The same person who lined up your sideburns might also be responsible for removing your molar. Human history has a remarkable habit of combining jobs that absolutely should not be combined, and somehow, this wasn't even the weirdest part. To understand the barber pole, we have to talk about one of medicine's biggest mistakes. For centuries, doctors believed many illnesses came from having too much blood. Headache? Too much blood. Fever? It's probably blood. Feeling tired? Believe it or not, also blood. The treatment was called bloodletting. The idea was simple. Remove some blood, restore balance, feel better. Today, we know this was wrong for most conditions. In fact, it often made sick people even weaker. But for well over 1,000 years, bloodletting was considered respectable medicine. When nearly everyone believes something is true, even smart people can spend generations confidently heading in the wrong direction. History is full of examples like that. This just happens to involve considerably more bleeding. At first, physicians performed bloodletting themselves. Eventually, many decided they'd rather not. It was messy, time-consuming, and compared to diagnosing illnesses, it was considered fairly routine work. So the task gradually shifted to barbers. After all, they already owned the sharpest blades in town. If you ever wondered where the phrase barber surgeon came from, this is it. A barber might spend the morning cutting hair, the afternoon pulling teeth, and finish the day draining someone's blood because everyone sincerely believed it was helping. Talk about a diverse skill set. Nowadays, if your barber offered to remove your appendix after your fade, you'd probably leave a 1-star review. Back then, that might have been considered excellent customer service. Here's where the pole enters the story. Imagine you've come in for bloodletting. You're handed a wooden staff and told to grip it tightly. Why? Because squeezing the pole made the veins on your arm stand out. That made them easier to find. As blood flowed into a bowl or onto cloth bandages, those bandages would eventually be washed and hung outside to dry. Picture stripes of white linen twisting around a pole in the wind. White cloth, red blood, wrapped around a wooden post. Sound familiar? Many historians believe that's where the barber pole's design originated. Not from a logo, not from a branding agency, from laundry, which might be the least glamorous origin story imaginable. Now, before someone rushes to the comments, there's a small catch. History isn't always neat. Some details are debated. No one can point to a single afternoon and say, that's it, that's the very first barber pole. Several explanations exist. Some historians place more emphasis on the blood-soaked bandages. Others think the wooden staff itself became the symbol. Some believe both ideas gradually blended together over centuries. That's fairly common in history. Traditions rarely arrive fully assembled. They're more like recipes. People keep adding ingredients until everyone forgets who started cooking. Regardless of the exact sequence, one thing isn't really disputed. The pole became associated with barber surgeons, and eventually with barbers themselves. Then, something unexpected happened. Medicine kept advancing, slowly, painfully, occasionally while accidentally making things worse first. Doctors became more specialized, hospitals improved, scientific testing replaced ancient assumptions, and bloodletting faded away. Thankfully, barbers stopped performing surgery, stopped pulling teeth, stopped draining blood. They returned to doing what we know them for today. Hair, beards, conversation, and asking if you want just a little off the top. The profession changed completely. The symbol didn't. Think about how strange that is. Imagine if modern pizza restaurants still displayed symbols from whatever unrelated job pizza makers happened to do 600 years ago. We'd think it was bizarre. Yet millions of people walk past barber poles every day without realizing they're looking at a relic from medieval medicine. You may have noticed that some barber poles also include blue stripes. That's especially common in the United States. There are a few exceptions for this too. One popular theory is that the red, white, and blue reflect patriotic colors after the American Revolution. Another is that the blue represented veins while the red represented arteries. The historical evidence isn't quite strong enough to declare one explanation the clear winner. Sometimes the honest answer is simply, we're not entirely sure. And that's okay. History doesn't always tie itself into a perfect little bow. There's something I really like about this story. It reminds us that symbols have a habit of outliving the reasons they were created. Think about the floppy disk icon we still use to mean save. Millions of people recognize it. Far fewer have ever actually used a floppy disk. The symbol stayed, the object disappeared. The barber pole is doing something very similar. Almost nobody associates it with surgery anymore, or bloodletting, or medieval medicine. It has quietly been reassigned by history. Now it simply means you can probably get a decent haircut here. Not bad for a symbol that's been reinventing itself for centuries. The next time you pass a barbershop, take another look at that spinning pole. It isn't just decoration, it's one of the oldest business signs still in everyday use. A reminder of a time when your haircut, your shave, your tooth extraction, and your medical treatment might all happen in the same chair. Suddenly, waiting 15 minutes because your barber is running late doesn't seem quite so bad. Some pieces of history sit behind glass in museums. Others spin quietly on street corners, hiding stories that most of us have walked past our entire lives. Stay curious, friends.